You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 179.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hello, beautiful. How are you? Welcome to a new month. It is August. And a lot of people like to do those scare tactics of like, oh my gosh, there's only 4 months left in the year or 5 months left in the year, whatever it is. What is it, 5? I don't even know. But I like to look at it as, oh my gosh, there are 4 months left in the year and there is so much for me to do. So I want to offer you that. If you are on social media and you see people like freaking you out that you haven't figured out life yet before 2026 hits. But if you want to figure out life, I'm glad you're here because that is what I do. I help women who are childless after infertility create a life they love without the children that they dreamed of. So I'm glad you're here. If you were here last week and are on YouTube, you can see my latest set of glasses. I shared with you last week how I got new pairs and I'm going to be trying them out each week. So this is this week's. What do you think? You like them better than last week's? Do you like this week's better? Check me out on YouTube at lana.manikowski and let me know. Drop me a DM. Before we dive in, I want to tell you about a free class I am teaching on August 26th. On Zoom. It is free to join. It is all about the things people say when you're childless. I have not taught a live class for 6 months. So if you have ever froze when someone told you that you can always adopt or felt like you had to explain why you decided to stop without having a baby, or walked away from a conversation thinking, why in the hell did I share all that? This class is for you. In this free class, I'm going to help you figure out how to respond to those comments without spiraling, without shutting down, without giving away your power to the people who weren't in this journey with you. I'm going to put a link for you to sign up in the show notes. Make sure you save your seat because if you're not registered, you won't be able to get all of this brilliance. Let's get started this week and talk about protecting your peace in conversations that used to leave you feeling misunderstood or maybe even invisible. This is coming up constantly in my coaching sessions with my clients and in conversations in general with women who are childless after infertility. There is this pressure to explain, not just to strangers or well-meaning friends, but maybe it's sometimes even explaining yourself to yourself. So let me tell you, you might recognize this. At first, you might stay silent, not because you don't have a story to share or years of things that you have tried to become a mom, but because you might not have the words yet. You might not have the emotional energy to say out loud what the last several years were like for you. I found that way with me. I went through the 7-year journey and I did not know how to talk about the loss of my motherhood or this dream without completely unraveling. So I stayed silent. Maybe you do the same. You say nothing when people ask, why don't you have kids? You might nod, you might smile, you might change the subject. Silence feels safer to you and it feels easier to stay silent than to explain something that most people who haven't gone through infertility likely won't understand. But there comes a time when things shift. Maybe somebody makes a comment or they ask a question about why you don't have kids or offer you a suggestion, and suddenly you find yourself doing the exact opposite. You go into full explanation mode. You start by justifying all the years that you spent doing this, all the number of rounds of IVF that you did, the cost. For me, I went to a remote clinic for the second half of my treatment, so the travel. And you're trying to justify the decisions that you made, why you didn't do a donor egg. Maybe If you feel like it, you might share why adoption wasn't the right answer for you. But what you do is you find yourself justifying your entire journey because it's maddening to hear people offer suggestions for what they think you should be doing or what they think that you should have done to become a mom. You might even find yourself explaining your appearance. I know for me, I gained a significant amount of weight, and I used to tell people that, oh, it's the IVF meds, even though I was years past fertility treatments, but it was this like justification of why I had gained weight, why my body looked different than they were used to seeing it look pre-fertility treatments. I wasn't ready to go into the deeper truth that I had given up on my body because I felt like my body had given up on me. That was the truth. There were times when I just sat there and tried to over-explain things because I didn't know how to tell people that I stopped caring for my body because I did not know how to stop blaming it for not producing the child that I thought it was going to produce. I know the exhaustion that comes from living between those two extremes. The silence that eats away at your identity and this over-explaining that feels like you're putting your pain on trial. Because you're constantly anticipating that there's going to be judgment. You're bracing for that next comment, and you offer your grief like evidence, hoping that it will finally get someone to see you and say, oh, I get it now. But you do not have to keep doing that. You don't need to keep explaining your grief to be allowed to feel it. And you don't need to justify your choices just to protect your peace or to defend your decision to stop trying to pursue motherhood. You're allowed to say that was my limit. That was what I was capable enough. And this life that ended up without a child is enough. Even if nobody sees it, and even if nobody else gets it, you can still get it. So let me take a moment here to share with you a passage from chapter 1 of my beautiful best-selling book called So Now What? If you haven't heard me talk about my book or you haven't read my book, I'm going to read you a passage from chapter 1. If you want to download chapter 1 for free, I will put that link in the show notes as well. It is a very transformational chapter because I am sharing about the most startling news I got throughout my whole journey. So here we go. A direct passage from chapter 1 of So Now What? The results from the genetic testing of my last frozen embryo were in, and the message ended with, I'm sorry, Lana. I know how badly you and Jack wanted this. I was shattered. Over the past 7 years, there had always been a glimmer of hope, a chance that this time it would work. But this time, my dream of biological motherhood was gone. I was in shock. I needed to get away from my colleagues and find somewhere to fall apart. I found myself tucked away at the end of a dark corridor in our corporate headquarters, sobbing and mourning the children I always wanted, the mother I deserved to be, and the future I had dreamed of. It had all been taken away with me, and there was no solace. So that was the moment that my fertility journey ended. The phone call that shared with me that my journey through fertility treatments was ending. And that was not the moment that ended me. And I want you to know that the same is possible for you because there is a part of the story most people don't ever talk about. The way you tell your story is the most powerful tool that you have. But most of us never stop to ask, when somebody asks, do I have kids or why I don't have kids, do I like the way I talk about my experience? And I'm telling the version that's true for me or just the version that other people can handle. But there are parts that you are ready to let go of. There might be parts that you've never said out loud because you never knew you were allowed to. This, to me, my love, is like the icing on the cake. This is the place where you take your power back. And this is like the stuff I love doing. I have a new client that I'm working with. We just finished her second week of Thrive After Infertility. We're working together one-on-one. And we talked this week about her story, how she tells her story. When she tells somebody that she doesn't have kids or about her fertility journey, does she like what she's saying? So I want to ask you and tell you that you learn how to tell your story on your terms. You can learn to speak about what you live through without this need to defend it. And you can learn how to see yourself not as a woman who failed, but as a woman who showed up, who is choosing peace, who decided enough is enough. You can feel proud of who you are, even if no one understands the journey it was like to get here. You can walk into conversations without feeling that you need to prove your pain or you need to shame someone for asking you if you have kids. You can finally hear your story and start liking the way that your story sounds, even if it turned out without the child that you dreamed of. You can feel rooted in your identity as a childless woman without feeling shameful or that you need to apologize, because it is really important for you to know that you do not need to be understood by everyone. I used to think these people need to understand that this is not the right thing to ask and this is not appropriate conversation. But when you learn that they can believe and think and interpret however they want, and it not affect you because you understand yourself and you see yourself, girl, that is the gold. Okay? So if you have ever been stuck in this situation where you're not sure whether you should over-explain or stay silent, and you're tired of replaying your decisions that you made through your treatments like evidence and ready to reclaim your story in how you show up and how you talk about your fertility journey, you need to show up to my next class, The Things People Say When You're Childless. Again, in the show notes, I'm going to put the link for you to register. And you know that I created this free guide called The Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless, with suggestions for how you can respond. If you're still looking for ways to respond, there is going to be a link to that in the show notes. And I created all this because you deserve to feel whole without a disclaimer. You deserve to tell your story in a way that feels true and in a way that depicts peace and gives you peace through your explanation of what you are and who you are as a woman without children. And I want every woman to know that that is available, because we don't know that there is a way to show up in a life without children that allows you to feel at peace with who you are and to tell a story that makes you feel proud instead of make you want to hide and stay silent. And that is available to you, and I want you to have that no matter where you are in your journey. So I hope you have a beautiful week. I love you, and remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, if your ears perked up when you heard about Thrive After Infertility, the 12-week coaching program I created for women who are ready to create the life they love without the children they dreamed of, let's talk. This program is where everything starts to shift. You don't have to figure it out alone. You don't have to stay stuck or in a life that just feels like it's happening to you instead of for you. Take a peek at the show notes for the link to book your free 45-minute Thrive call. And in that call, we'll create a plan for you about what's next, about how you can create a life you love and start to thrive after infertility.